Good morning, this is Melanie Bluegrass with Abolition News Network, December 15th, 1838. While on the series of kidnapping and justice, we discovered an early form of justice that came about as a result of rampant kidnapping on the streets of New York City of freeborn blacks. It is called the Vigilance Committee. Here to tell us about one of these committees is David Ruggles, Executive Secretary of the New York Vigilance Committee. Welcome, Mr. Ruggles.
Ms. Bluegrass.
So let's begin with how the Vigilance Committee got started.
It was like this. In 1835, an African-American group called the Friends of Human Rights met to study the practice of kidnapping men, women, and children off the streets in broad daylight. The result of this study was called the Vigilance Committee of New York City.
Okay, so that's pretty clear. Can you tell us, what is New York City like for an average African American?
New York City. There's about 300,000 inhabitants, of which about 15,000 are African American. Of these, 5,000 are runaway slaves. Free blacks are taken off the streets every day by someone claiming him to be a slave. He could then be jailed on trumped-up charges and deported down south.
Wow, I mean, that's terrible. Can you give us an example of one of these incidences?
I knew of a man, George Jones, a free man, arrested on downtown Broadway Street. The man that was with the police said he would take care of his bail. But at 1 p.m., the city recorder, in the presence of several other kidnappers, pronounced him a runaway slave. And in less than 3 hours from his street arrest, he was bound in chains and thrown in prison.
Wow, that's terrible. Okay, well, can you tell us more about New York City?
Yes, back to New York City. African Americans are mostly packed into the worst area of the city. It's called the 5 Points, named after the 5 narrow streets that come together there. Here mixed in with each other are the poor Irish, criminals, murderers, kidnappers, filth and prostitutes, thieves, abandoned women. I mean, there's no sewage system or police, and the pigs just forage through the rotten garbage and sewage in the streets. I say that describes it pretty well.
Wow, that doesn't sound like any place I'd like to live. I can smell the stench from your description. That's terrible. There's something I'd like to ask you about. There's an organization called the American Anti-Slavery Society. Now, isn't that exactly what your organization does? No.
We've had anti-slavery societies in the past, but they have not done the complete job of protecting African Americans from bad justice. We have no connection with them. I like to refer to something in the Bible. The Apostle Paul, who we always know is defiant, believed that unjust laws must be resisted, even unto death.
Okay, so you want action. Okay, so why did the Vigilance Committee hire you? Weren't you a grocery store owner?
I quit that grocery store I owned back in NY and became an agent for the anti-slavery newspaper, The Emancipator, and began giving slave talks as far west as Pennsylvania.
All right, so what is the purpose of the Vigilance Committee? What does it do exactly?
Yes, we do more. We publicize descriptions of missing persons. We provide assistance to fugitives, hire lawyers. We take action against slave ship captains. We provide assistance to the newly arrived fugitives from the South by providing food, clothing, water, shelter. Then we turn them over to the Underground Railroad to go to Canada. I like to call this practical abolition.
I like that. It sounds like you're doing a lot of good work. I'd like to know more. Can you tell us some specifics about what an average day is like for you?
Let's say it has the duty to prevent a fugitive from being arrested and provides legal assistance to that fugitive and raises every legal obstacle to his being surrendered to a slave owner. And that includes being taken out of a courtroom even if it is packed with pro-slavery officials and witnesses.
So how do you deal with people and money?
I have 100 men on the committee, and I'm proud to announce that in our first year of operation, we have helped over 335 men and women with only $1,229 raised from donations. Oh, and by the way, I helped the now famous Frederick Douglass escape from Maryland.
Wow, impressive. So can you tell our viewers about more of your results?
I'd say by the end of this year, we will have helped between 500 and 600 runaway slaves escape to the Underground Railroad at 67 Litzman Yard Street, my home, which is also a station. I'd say modestly, we're the most skilled and most aggressive of its kind. I wrote in the Liberator, where is it? The Liberator. There it is. We have no protection, no justice. We have to look to our own safety and protection. Self-defense is the first law of nature. David Ruggles, 1836.
Mr. Ruggles, I'd like to join your Vigilance Committee. It sounds so dashing romantic. I could put on a mask like this, have a whip and a horse, and dash into your courtroom, snatch up the slave victim, and ride out like Zorro did in old Spanish California, fighting the corrupt Spanish alcaldes.
You've got a point there. Like Zorro. I like that.
Yeah, Zorro. I think you would get tired of her, Mr. Ruggles. She was trained at the School for Proper Ladies and won't even serve tea.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
Well, thank you very much for coming. There you have it. The Vigilance Committee is the justice system for African Americans in cities who have not been protected by the Bill of Rights or the law. So, thank you very much. This is Melanie Bluegrass saying good morning.